Welcome back to the Almost 13 Colonies podcast. This week we are doing what I am calling the Gobble special. Um, we are this is gonna be a little bit different from what we're used to. I really wanted to give Colin and Clay a week off for everything that they do. So it's just gonna be me. We are all gonna be on this journey with me today. It's going to be a very quick podcast. We're just going to quickly go over the standings, and then we're going to go into projections for next week. But I still wanted to give out a recording, which is why I'm doing this solo. Before we get going, though, first and foremost, cheers, everybody. Alrighty. So to start things off, we are going to start with Division Mitch, which is my division. And we are going with Prestige Worldwide at number 1 with a 6-5 record. Number 2 is As Good as Rutgers, which is my team, also at a 6-5 record. Then we have Patrick's Mustache and I'm Losing This Year in 3 and 4, respectively. Patrick's Mustache is a 5-6 record. Giz's team is just one win away from really changing the course of this. This week I'm going up against Gizmo's team, so this is really going to define this week who is going to make the playoffs. I think this is a very important matchup. I think if I win this game, Giz might be statistically eliminated just based off ranking and how other things go. But we will get to that in a little bit. So that's where Giz is at. Prestige Worldwide had a big loss and a confusing loss last week. I wasn't sure quite what happened, but Steve's team just kind of went off and went off spectacularly. And that's what ended up giving Prestige Worldwide the 6-5 record. And yeah, so it's going to be really interesting how this playoff picture is going to work out. Prestige Worldwide is at a 73% chance of making the playoffs, while I'm at 60%. Patrick's Mustache is at 22%. Again, though, that is more than likely going to change after this week. So really looking out. And then last but not least, I'm Losing This Year. Gotta pour one out for the homies. I'm Losing This Year is now statistically eliminated from making the playoffs. And that is Division Mitch. Next up, we are going with Division Andy. Zeke and Destroy is in first place with an 8-3 record and a 99% chance of making the playoffs. Hertz Donut is coming in at 5-6 with a 22% chance of making the playoffs. Scott's Tots coming in third with the same record with a 34% chance of making the playoffs still. And Corn Kid, who is 4-7 with a 1% chance of making it. It's not statistically done yet for Andy's team. But I think after next week, if he loses, he will be officially out of the running. So I really like Vinny's team. I think Vinny's team is going to obviously make the playoffs. I think Vinny's team is going to make a good run in the playoffs. I don't see his team making the championship, but I think with Josh Jacobs doing as well as he is, I just can't imagine. Oh, and Justin Fields, by the way, who's just apparently going off for no reason at all. And I think that his team is going to make a deep run in the playoffs, and it's gonna get real intense. It's gonna get real intense for his team, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he finishes off the season. Pierce's team and Brecken's team are really interesting to me. Pierce made a really good trade to get him into a 5-6 position, but that trade really hasn't gone off the way that I expected it to go off. Like, there's some weeks where he's going to score 170 points, but it seems more and more he's scoring less than 100 now a week. So he still has a chance. His team can still turn it around, but I'm very concerned with the fact that his team is not going to perform what he needs, and he's going to miss out on the playoffs. Last episode, I talked about how Brecken's team, on paper, should be a number 1 seed. And here we are at a 5-6 record, 34% chance of making the playoffs, and he's nowhere. Last week, he had a really good game with Derrick Henry being Derrick Henry and just completely dominating the football field. But I mean, other than this week, like his team just does not perform the way that you think they would perform. And for that, I know Creighton has him in his power rankings to get to the playoffs. I don't see it happening. He's got a long hill to climb. But we're just gonna see how it plays out. You know, I really hope Brecken's team makes it. His team is always fun. He's always, really good at fantasy. But this might just be the year he just can't do it. Some more on that when it comes, and that's going to be Division Andy. Um, Last division, we've got Division Creighton. Apollo Creed is an 8-3 record with a 99% chance of making the playoffs. AFC West, 7-4 with a 97% chance of making the playoffs. And Kittlecorn, 7-4 with a 92% chance of making the playoffs. And the King, sadly eliminated with a 2-9 record. He was eliminated 2 weeks ago when we brought it on the pod, but still got to pour one out for the homie. So that's kind of where we are. The race for the bottom of the totem pole is still at large. We have the Corn Kid obviously being in 10th place right now, with I'm Losing being in 11th and the King being in 12th. I still think John has a pretty good chance to not be last place. But he's got to turn it around. We've got very few. He's either got to really turn it around this week, or he's going to have to make one hell of a run in the loser bracket come the playoff time. But I'm really pulling for him. I don't think he will get last place, but we'll see. So that's that. And Division Creighton in itself, minus John, is in a pretty good spot. I've said it before. I've said it again. I think Alexander's team is one of the best teams out there. He's been riddled with injuries. He's been riddled with bye weeks. So he has his 7-4 record, in my opinion, is not spectacular, and it doesn't reflect on how good his team actually is. I think he will make it into the semifinals. I don't know if he'll go to the championship, depending on what his matchup is. But I think Alexander is going to do really well, and I think Steve this year probably has to be the comeback kid. I mean, he is just popping off week after week. His team just does really, really well. And from being second to last place, I believe, in the league last year, me being last place last year, but from being second to last and now being one of the top seeded individuals in the playoffs is an unbelievable run. And you can't get a better run than that. So really pulling for them. But again, though, anything is possible. Kittlecorn could still miss out on the playoffs if he loses out the rest of the year. So could Alexander's team, AFC West. I don't think it's going to happen with Apollo Creed, but I think it's possible that he misses the playoffs. I think this next couple of weeks is really going to determine what transpires for the rest of the season. And I'm really looking forward to that. So without further ado, we're going to dive into some predictions for next week. To start things off, we're going to look at Prestige Worldwide versus I'm Losing this year. I think it's pretty safe I think it's a pretty safe bet that Kamish's team is going to win this game. No disrespect to Beery's team. I just think Beery's team isn't going to be able to do what they're going to do because they underperform severely every single week. So I think this win is going to go out to Colin, and then he's going to 100% lock his place into the playoffs this next week. So that's game one. Game two is going to be Kittlecorn versus Apollo Creed. Right now, currently projected, Creighton is going to win this game. I don't believe so. I think it might come down to the wire. Joe Mixon did not have a good game last week. He did not. And Dalvin Cook kind of had a good game. Not really. Dalvin Cook's been very bad majority of this year. So I think it's possible that Kittlecorn could take this at the end. Kittlecorn's got Josh Allen. Josh Allen's got a rocket arm. Looks great in shorts. And so, yeah, it's going to be a very close one. I could very well see Kittlecorn and Apollo Creed tying at an 8-4 record and really having Steve actually make a push towards that number 1 seed. But we will see what happens. Next game coming up, we've got Alexander versus the King. And I think it's very safe to say that AFC West will win this game. You're in a playoff spot. You're going up against John, who's in last place. This should be a very easy win for Alexander, but only time will tell. Next up, we've got Hertz Donut versus the Corn Kid. This one is actually going to, I think, might be the first game this year that's going to come down to the decimal point of who's going to win. I could very well see Jalen Hurts going off, Austin Eckler going off again. I could see Thomas Etienne going off. Yeah, it's going to be a really good game, really close game. I'm going to actually predict that Andy wins this game. And I think it's going to be by the decimal point because this game is going to be very close. Next one up, we've got Scott's Tots versus Zeke and Destroy. I'm officially calling this one the game of the week because you've got Brecken's team that absolutely cannot lose situation, and he's going up against currently the number 1 team in his division. So I think this game is going to be very close. I think Justin Fields and Josh Jacobs are just going to go off again this week. I think Lamar Jackson is going to go off for Brecken's team. I don't know if Derrick Henry will. He did have a very good running last week, who also threw a couple of touchdown passes. Is Derrick Henry the king of both running and throwing? Like an unreal performance from him last week. Ultimately, I'm wanting. I guess I should say this. For personal reasons, I would really love it for Vinny's team to win this matchup. I think it could go either way, though. This is definitely game of the week in my opinion, and I think official prediction is going to be Vinny winning this matchup. And then last, but certainly not least, we have As Good as Rutgers going up against Patrick's Mustache. I think As Good as Rutgers is going to win this game, obviously because, one, it's my team and I'm the most confident person in this whole league. But also I think because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are not going to have that well of a connection. And I also think Jonathan Taylor, who's had a couple of good games in the last week, is just not going to perform again. I have no trust in Jeff Saturday. He's won a couple of games. I mean, he has no coaching experience. He beat the Raiders. Anybody can beat the Raiders right now. They are terrible. I just don't have faith in Indianapolis, and I don't have faith in the Bengals, who've been very underperforming, but only time is going to tell. We're going to see what happens. I think, though, that my team is going to come out on front. And that's it, everybody. We have 1 minute left on this pod, so I just want to come out and say thank you to everybody who watches this. We are constantly, we have our own lives. We are constantly busy all the time. We can't always produce a podcast every single week. But we do want to do the best that we can. And we want to do the best that we can because we appreciate everybody who watches this. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you all who watch this. Thank you all who support this. And thank everybody who's in this league. I know I give all of you shit every single week for this podcast, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate every single one of you, even you, Creighton, who I think has a hate boner for me. But I mean, I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone who comes together to watch this and critique this and really try to make this the best product that we can possible. So thank you for listening in to the Gobble Gobble special of the Almost 13 Colonies podcast. And from everybody here in the studio, I hope you all have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Sometimes you wanna go
Everybody knows your name.